Alright, so you could definitely see me a little bit better now, based on last time's video that I made at night. But alright, I'm just getting out of the gym right now. Yeah, I did a little makeshift thing where I put a piece of paper where the magnet and the base hold, so it creates an angle so that I can see myself better, or whoever's watching this can see me better. It's not perfect, but it's there. Pretty sure it's gonna fall off any minute now, but we'll see how long it could go without it falling. But anyway, this is a quick update on where the business is going. The Mosaic Owl, as it's called, the name of the business. So last time I said that I was gonna do FBA. I had bought a program or subscribed to a program called Jungle Scout. Jungle Scout has two components. One is a web-only app, and the other one is a Chrome app. The Chrome app is $100 every year, and the web app is $40 a month, right? So I got both, and I used it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that is not for me. And I'm going to explain why. The reason why is because I started thinking about what FBA is, right? And not FBA in general, the very specific going to Alibaba, buying stuff that's considered good under certain criteria, and then selling, using Jungle Scout, of course, and then selling that on Amazon. I started thinking about it, right? And I realized that all I would be doing is taking junk from one place and putting it in another place where there's the same exact junk from the same place, except there's more of it, and people are differentiating by changing the picture or the color or whatever. So I'm not hating on it. I kind of am hating on it, but I don't mean to. It's just that it's not for me. Does it work? Can it work for other people? Of course. Anything works. But it won't work for me because I don't feel right doing that. It's not like an ethical problem or anything. It's more of a just, I have no passion doing that, right? It sounded cool at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that's not what I want to do. Now, the good thing is it did spark an idea, or a bunch of ideas. This whole journey of creating the business, I don't regret it. It's like one of the coolest things that I've done, right? Because it sparked like 50,000 different ideas that I never thought possible. The main one is that I kind of traded that Alibaba FBA thing for something called private label. Private label is basically, it's the same idea, but instead of you going to Alibaba and copying other people's junk, you basically invent your own thing, right? You make your own thing. So I'm more interested in that, and the cool thing is, that's something I never thought possible. Actually, when I was probably 5 or 6, actually, I'll tell you how old. It was after the age of 4, all right? I used to invent stuff, and I don't mean like complicated stuff. I was just always really interested, and I had forgotten this about myself, but I was always interested in combining things, right? Essentially, that's what inventing is. You're not like manifesting something from thin air. An invention is just a combination of ideas and products to make a new product or idea. So putting it like that, I've been doing that since the age of 4. I used to do weird stuff, man. Like, I remember my first invention, right? The prototype. There was a hole in the wall. Now, this is gonna be so stupid, right? But I was 4 years old. And I agree, it's also stupid that a 27-year-old thinks that this is genius. But, you know, it's pretty surprising when I think about it. There was a hole in the wall, and I grabbed like 4 spaghettis, like uncooked, and I just put them in the hole, and I put a rubber band hanging, right? So I know that sounds silly. That's it. That's the whole thing. It sounds super silly, but in a way, it was a sort of invention because it dealt with the fact that after a certain point, the spaghetti would fall with the rubber band, but if I pushed it in just deep enough, there was a point that once I barely passed it, the rubber band would hang on. Now, obviously, this is dumb. It's very archaic stuff, but that just goes to show you, like, how I was. I was curious. Now, most kids that age would be doing things like that, right? They're probing things around them because they want to know, that's the way we learn, right? And I continued doing that. I used to make little catapults, and there's a funny story about that, but I don't want to get too deep into this. But I used to make slingshots, I used to make catapults, all from my own imagination, either copying things that I had seen and making brand new ideas, or in some cases, I remember I wanted to make a portable, this was probably when I was 6 or 7. I wanted to make a portable, sink or faucet. So what I did is I grabbed this plastic bin, small bin, and I put a plastic bag inside it. I tied a straw and a rubber band to it. And then what I would do is I would press down the bag, and then the pressure would build up, and then it would squirt the water on the other side. Again, I'll say this is stupid. Anybody could come up with that. But looking back, it's interesting to see what I was thinking about. I was thinking about creating new things, inventions. And I do remember clearly that's something that I was really interested in this whole idea of inventing. I don't know what it is, but I stopped doing that. I don't remember when I stopped, but I think it was somewhere around that time. I just stopped creating things. I started sketching and drawing and doing things like that, but I stopped building things from my own imagination. And that died. And then somehow, by creating this business and discovering what private label is, it kind of sparked in my mind again. It's like, dude, I could build something, right? I could make an invention. I don't want to do something crazy. I don't know anything about electrical components or anything, right? It would be something simple. But the interesting thing about me now, right, is that I am way more capable of creating an invention now than I was at that age. And what I mean by that, it's not because I'm more intelligent, but because I have more tools at my disposal. I have, for example, architecture knowledge. Since I studied architecture, I know how things go together. I know how to use the programs to basically create whatever ideas I have in my mind three-dimensionally, right? And actually test them in a three-dimensional space without actually making a physical prototype. Once it's ready, I know how to use a 3D printer, and I have a 3D printer. So I can create prototypes in my house. And I have money, and I can get money, so I can manufacture these inventions, right? And I'm not worried about the idea. I get ideas thousands of times every week or month. I get floods of ideas, right? And most of them I just kind of toss them out. I'll think about them a little bit, and then I'll just toss them out. But what I gotta do is I gotta start writing all my ideas, even the stupid ones, right? So I can just have a physical copy of something. But that's one of the main reasons why I'm so happy that I discovered this new path in my life. And it's just crazy how life is, man. I don't know if you want to call it destiny, or if you want to call it some spiritual journey. What's the word? Casualidad. That's Spanish. Casualidad. Damn. How do you say that in English? I guess not luck. Well, whatever. I call it whatever you want to call it. A coincidence. That's what I was saying. Call it whatever you want to call it. The interesting thing about life is that sometimes we're on these journeys and we take different paths, and they're always meant to be. I've realized that about my own personal life. I don't like pushing that ideology on anybody else, but in my life personally, the bad has always resulted in something that needed to happen, and it does suck. I'm not saying that. It's the worst thing when something bad happens. It's a bad feeling, and I hate when bad things happen, and I wish they never happened. But in my life, every time that something bad has happened, and again, I'll stress it, I wish bad things never happened again, but it's a part of life, unfortunately. Every time something bad has happened, it was for a reason that it didn't make sense at the moment, right? And this is a cliche, everybody has heard this. But this, for example, that happened, this whole idea, it was because, I haven't been happy with my life. You know, I've been a little miserable because I feel like I'm working so much, and I'm not comparing myself to anybody. If you're a lumberjack or somebody, a roofer, someone that does like physical hands-on work, obviously your job is way harder than my desk job. Not saying that. I'm not comparing myself to anybody. I'm comparing myself to myself, okay? How I feel now in my life is miserable when compared to myself and what I perceive my potential to be, okay? What I mean by this is that I wish I could spend more time with my family, and I wish I could do side hustles or freelance work to get my money, right? Well, this is something that I started wishing probably like a year or two ago. And I'm not the type of person to wish for something and then hold out my hands and sit. No. I wish and I pray and I act on it. Sometimes actually I don't even pray or wish for a certain for something to happen in my life. I don't wish or pray for it. I'll wish for the path, right? So like, let's say I want to be successful. I won't wish to be successful. I wish that I could find a path to facilitate my journey on finding one of those paths. You know, wish for strength and things like that. Don't wish for the outcome. The outcome is part of the journey. You know, it's a product of the journey. You gotta enjoy the journey. And right now, I don't feel like I'm enjoying the journey. Unfortunately, when I was growing up, my goal was to be rich because I was not rich. I didn't have a horrible childhood. I had a great childhood, family-wise. I had the best family in the world. But material things I was never able to get. I lived in a small house all my life, pretty much. And that house was like 700 square feet, which for some of you listening, you're probably like, wow, that's huge. 700 square feet. Jesus, that's huge. But like I said, I'm not comparing myself to anybody. I'm comparing myself to myself. For myself, I didn't feel comfortable in that environment, okay? Because I felt like I couldn't invite my friends. The way that the house was designed, it was just a mess. That's part of the reason why I decided to become an architect, because I hated my house so much that I was angry at the architect. I was like, whoever designed this house is a moron, okay? And later on I found out that unfortunately the logistics of life is what causes these horrible designs. It's not even an architect's fault. Most of the time it's actually developers and money and just the way that the cities work and the code and all that other good stuff. But when I was younger, I didn't understand that. So I hated the architect. So I hated him, and I had met him when I was younger. And I hated him, and I promised myself I would never design junk like that, which I have designed junk like that, unfortunately. So it's like, you know, what goes around comes around. But the point of what I'm saying is that I personally felt like I didn't have enough. You know, if I wanted a new video game console or something like my friends had, I couldn't afford it. My parents were barely making ends meet. And they're always going around through different jobs and everything. It was just, I told myself that I didn't want that lifestyle. After I became an adult, I didn't want the same lifestyle, and I definitely didn't want that lifestyle for my kid, okay? I didn't want my kid to feel the stress, my economic stress, because they have nothing to do with that. Kids should only have to focus on school, in my opinion, on school and making the foundation, no pun intended, for their own life, okay? Kids shouldn't have to worry about the parents' finances. That adds more stress. It makes you stronger. It makes those kids stronger, actually, and it probably drives them like I was driven to succeed. But man, I don't think kids should go through that, right? Kids should definitely be disciplined other ways, but dealing with real world problems at such a young age, I do not want that for my own kids. So the whole point is that personally, so I wanted to become rich, right? And I still want to be wealthy. I don't necessarily want to be a millionaire or famous like I used to want to, but I do want to be wealthy, and I want a great life financially and health-wise and all that stuff for my kids and my family and all that stuff. But something that nobody ever told me was, and I'm sorry that I'm all over the place, and I don't know who I'm apologizing to, but I just have a lot on my mind. But something that nobody ever told me is how, yeah, getting money is nice, but sometimes how you get the money means that you're not going to have any time to enjoy the money, right? Nobody ever told me that, and I never thought about that. I thought that if you have a lot of money, you get a cool car, you get a cool stuff, but nobody ever told me that you're not going to have the time to enjoy it. So here I am. I'm at a point where I only work 40 hours a week. I'm not working like hundreds of hours a week, obviously. There are times that I have to work weekends and it's horrible, and again, I'm not comparing me to you. I'm comparing me to me, how I feel. I don't want to work so much. I want to spend time with my family. So I decided about a year ago, okay, being an architect is awesome. It's fun. Love designing. But if it means that I'm going to have to work 40 to 50 to 60 hours, and that's not including commute, people. That's just working. That's just sitting in the office. But I would argue that it would be more around 60 to 70 hours a week once I include my commute and waking up early to beat traffic and all that stuff. But what I'm saying is that personally, I do not want that, right? And I realized that about a year ago, that I don't want that lifestyle anymore. I want to have a lifestyle where I'm financially free and I make money on my own terms, and I don't have a boss that passes his stress on to me when I have no stress doing the work that I'm doing. I'm not a stressful person. I figure things out. But unfortunately, the rest of the world doesn't work that way. The rest of the world stresses out when they run into problems. They don't know how to calm down. You're always going to run into problems. So don't complain. Don't bitch and moan about all you have to do. You just do it. If it gets hard, you figure it out, okay? But unfortunately, people in my life are not like that. Everybody tends to complain and argue, and they try to pass that stress on to me. And I don't like that. And I don't think anybody likes that. So I realized about a year or two ago that I didn't want that anymore. And that's why it's kind of like something that I strive for. I made a YouTube account, which is going okay. It's not going bad. Obviously, I'm making nothing from it. But and I got into investing stocks and all that stuff, and I'm not rich from that, but it's a nice way to move my money around. And I've been trying new ways to like become more financially independent. And then I found through YouTube recommendations, everybody is complaining about, I actually found an awesome video by this dude called Paul Savage, who sparked an interest in me creating my own business. And it's an online business, so I don't consider it a real business because it's not brick and mortar. And obviously it has zero sales and zero everything, so it definitely is not a real business yet, but it will be. And that's the whole point of this video. It's just an update, and that's it. So peace out. Whoever's watching this is going to become successful as heck. If things aren't going your way, remember, it will go your way. Your point in life is to just look for the opportunity that's out there. That's it. Things aren't going your way, keep your eyes open for opportunity. Peace. See you in a few.